as of just a few hours ago, before Trump announced on Truth Social tonight that he was ousted.
Traditionally, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, usually as administrations change, that position often remains the same. It's not that each time a new president comes in, that person is removed.
Yeah, for example, General Mark Milley. That was Trump's actual handpicked Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman. It might be hard for some to believe, given how much that relationship deteriorated and how Trump talks about Mark Milley now and has, reposted things suggesting military tribunals for him. But that was actually someone that he handpicked in his first term to be the Joint Chiefs chairman and take on that role. It is a 4-year term. When President Biden won and took office, he kept Mark Milley in that role and did not fire him or oust him. And then when his term expired, that is when he picked CQ Brown. It is
so you hear that. CQ Brown was just appointed. He's only been there for a year, basically. And Trump's appointee was there for many years. And Trump ended up firing him just because the guy wouldn't take an illegal order from him.
Typically, yeah, those are positions that stay on and that stays regardless of the political party. And so the thing to watch here tonight, though, Anderson, as this is the first major firing that we are seeing happening at the Pentagon since Trump took office just a little over a month ago, is whether anyone else is to follow. Because there have been rumors that have been rampant in Washington for weeks now that there is going to be mass firings, I would say multiple firings at the leadership at the Pentagon. It's been hard to run down whether or not that's actually going to happen, but tonight we are getting this late night announcement. The top military advisor to the president has been ousted.
All right, Caitlin Collins, thanks very much. We'll see you at the top of the hour for The Source. I want to play that soundbite of Pete Hegseth in November talking about General Brown.
Well, first of all, you got to fire you got to fire the chairman of Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever that was involved in any of the DEI woke shit, has got to go. Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it. And that's the only litmus test we care about.
Joining us now is Rahm Emanuel, former Obama.
Does he view Putin as a...
Yesterday about President Trump's comments on the war in Ukraine, and he dodged the questions. Take a look.
The president has called Zelensky a dictator. Does he view Putin as a dictator? And does he want Zelensky out of power? I know he's called for elections.
Look, President Trump is obviously very frustrated right now with President Zelensky. The fact that he hasn't come to the table, that he hasn't
come to the table. What type of garbage is this? He's talking about Zelensky hasn't come to the table. Zelensky's been fighting a war, being attacked by a superpower with nuclear weapons. How annoyed could Trump be sitting down doing nothing, expecting everyone else to do everything? Even think for him. It's just, I'm sorry, but this is intentional that they're doing this. Everyone knows and saw what happened. And what this is gaslighting. And again, a public and a people should be very wary of this, because this is a psychological, this is like deception. This is like high level gaslighting. This is what you do to an enemy, right? This is what they do to enemies, in warfare, mental warfare. You see what I mean? And people should just wonder what makes these people so comfortable with coming out and gaslighting the public, purposely lying to the public, lying to where if you question yourself about what you saw, you're going to be oppressed. Very simple. Everybody saw Putin invade Ukraine. Everybody knows Russia is a superpower. Everybody knows Ukraine is not. Everybody knows Ukraine barely had a standing army. You know, yeah, this is disgusting. You know, every human being on earth should be utterly, utterly ashamed when they watch this. Like, this is below, this is the lowest of the low type of human being here. I mean, I'm serious. This is just a terrible, terrible human being with no morals and no ethics. This is anti-human talking right here on the stage. I mean, I'm serious. And again, they're openly lying to people and they're openly threatening people with physical violence.
Been willing to take this opportunity that we have offered. I think he eventually will get to that point, and I hope so very quickly.
While Waltz might not have had an answer to the simple question as to whether Trump views Putin as a dictator, the New York Post sure does, publishing this front page headline today. The Murdoch Doe newspaper simply says, President Trump, this is a dictator, with a picture of Putin. This comes as the president's special envoy for Ukraine and Russia met with Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel brings us the latest.
President Zelensky is changing his tune, suggesting overnight he's now open to discussing a deal. President Trump is demanding for Ukraine to hand over 50% of its mineral rights in exchange for continued American support. After meeting with Trump's envoy, retired General Keith Kellogg, President Zelensky gave his nightly address, saying economy and security must always go hand in hand, and the details of the agreements matter. Zelensky also laid out what he expects in return, calling for a reliable and clear system of security guarantees that ensure long-term protection from Russia. American and Ukrainian officials tell NBC News the Trump administration presented Zelensky with the proposed mineral deal last week, giving him an hour to sign it. Zelensky refused, saying it didn't make security guarantees explicit. He was told Trump would be angry. And President Trump did respond angrily, falsely accusing Zelensky of being a dictator, and now making it clear he wants that deal signed.
Can you resurrect that deal? Is there anything that you can do?
I think I'm going to resurrect it. Or, you know, we'll see what happens, but I'm going to resurrect it, or things are not going to make him too happy.
In Ukraine this morning, at a rehabilitation center for soldiers just back from the front lines, some say they feel like they're being squeezed by the United States. But Sergeant Volodymyr Chaika doesn't oppose the deal in principle after what he's seen in combat over the last 3 years.
Some critics have said that President Trump is exploiting Ukraine, is taking advantage of its position right now in order to extract resources. You, as someone who's fought for this country so much, what do you think about that?
Between two evils, you have to pick the better one, he says. If I have to choose between the United States and the possibility that Russia will take over our country, I pick the United States.
And just moments ago, following his meeting with President Zelensky, that special envoy Keith Kellogg striking a rather different tone than President Trump when it comes to how they describe the Ukrainian leader. Kellogg just posted this on social media: a long and intense day with the senior leadership of Ukraine. Extensive and positive discussions with Zelensky, the embattled and courageous leader of a nation at war, and his talented national security team. So, Joe, I mean, that's Keith Kellogg doing a 180 from what we've heard from Trump, calling him Zelensky a dictator. But I think it's telling Kellogg not part of those initial talks with Russia. He's someone who is widely disliked in Moscow. So this, again, harkens back to our conversation of a few hours ago. Sometimes the Trump administration in the first term did things very differently than the president himself. Was much.
Okay, so this is getting interesting, but to me, it just seems like it's an attempt to repair. You know, sending Kellogg back is obviously it's not going well for Trump. It's a failure for Trump, his international diplomacy. It's a failure. And I wouldn't blame Zelensky for anything that he does or any Ukrainian because of how they've been treated, which is horribly. And everyone on earth should be afraid to be treated that way, right? to me, it just seems like I wouldn't necessarily trust it. If I was in Zelensky's situation, I would say anything. If it delays more time, brings more time, why not? Isn't that what the game is all about? I mean, I doubt very seriously that they would settle. You can say something, just like Trump goes out and lies every day. Remember, Zelensky is talking to a liar. And if American people pick a liar to represent them, they should not be blamed if someone lies to them. Of course, that's only rational, right? We can't be about fairy tales. And when you have a leader that lies, nothing wrong with lying back to him or the people that he represents, the people that voted for him. So Zelensky, let's see how it goes. But it doesn't change the fact that no one is expecting Trump to think about them anymore. The EU is not. Canada's not. Mexico is not. Right? Greenland's not. Nobody's expecting Trump to think about them at all in any type of way. Everyone is preparing for what Elon Musk, what Steve Bannon with the high Hitlers, and what Trump has said about the 14th Amendment and DEI. Like somehow fighting discrimination is discriminating, which we all know is bullshit. We don't have time to take it to the UN because these people are threatening violence and they don't want to use the Congress. So we don't really have time as the people to do things as, the human rights courts would intend it to be done. It takes time. And folks just don't have time. You can see Trump, he's desperate for time. He doesn't even have 1 second to waste. He's going to put out another executive order, no matter if it's constitutional or not, no matter what the judges say. And Kash Patel is going to get rid of the FBI, who really in rough states have been the only ones coming into states and investigating hate crimes when states don't do it. So we can kind of see where this is going. Folks, all I could say is hold on to your money. Hold on to your money. Now, let's hear a little bit about Kash Patel before we go back to the markets real quick. Let's see here. Here is this guy. He's a first generation American, whatever you call that first. His parents migrated to the U.S. or he migrated, to the U.S. I'm sorry. Or maybe he was growing up there. I don't know. But forgive me if I can't remember the difference between one generation and two, or just arrived, or your family did. Forgive me for that, because that's not my case with my family. So when I look at this guy, I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't need to hear anything else. He is a piece of shit. He is warped in the brain. He's warped in the brain. And if you are an American that just lets somebody walk in your country, fire, change everything, threaten people, right? Talking about purging, hanging out with Nazis, you already know what you got to do. You can't have a country like that. What's up with these MAGA folks? Is this some sort of warped thing where you get a minority that's a coon, throw a doggy biscuit in their head and go get them to kill and attack all the other minorities? Is that what that is? Is that what that is? Who's he going to go after? The Jews? Who's he going to go after? What ethnic group is he going to go after? The Polish? What does he want? The Hispanics? The African Americans? Which one is it? Who's going to be first to feel the injustice of Cash Patel to get the freeloader that gets our tax money. He probably doesn't even pay goddamn taxes. Do any of these people even want to release their business? He didn't even want to release his business holdings to the public. I mean, this is pathetic. But in any case, let's take a listen to this piece of human trash.
Oh, wow. First and foremost, we were just with President Trump, and I just want to thank him. I know he's not here in the room right now, but what a ride we have been on. What a courageous warrior and leader he has been. And the faith and trust he has put in me to lead the FBI is the greatest honor that I'll ever have in my life. And to General Bondi, that sounds pretty freaking cool. Pam, you're my sister, you're my mentor, you're my friend. You're my boss, and the confidence you have placed in me, I will never violate that trust. The men and women of the FBI will be led under your leadership through one standard, the Constitution. So thank you for entrusting me.
We don't trust you. We don't trust you. And you're a liar, and only an idiot would believe a person that openly lies in public like you do, Cash Patel. You are a walking piece of human trash. Human is too much for what you are.
Oh, man, this is effing crazy. So obviously, you don't get here alone. You know, I'm here because of God. I'm here because of my family, and I'm here because of my friends. And you're literally in this room because you made it happen. My sister, Nisha, and my nephew, Aryan, flew in from London just to be here. My beautiful girlfriend, Alexis, is here. Yes, my aunts and uncles are here. They've come from all over the country. I am living the American dream. And anyone that thinks the American dream is dead, just look right here. You're talking to a first-generation Indian kid who's about to lead the law enforcement community, the greatest nation on God's green earth. That can't happen anywhere else. Senators and the men and women of the United States House of Representatives, you placed an enormous trust in me, an enormous leap of faith. One that I didn't know that I could possibly earn back, but I'm going to spend every single day on this job doing so. The fact that you placed the confidence you did in me has inspired me to reach new heights at this job. I promise you the following. There will be accountability within the FBI and outside of the FBI, and we will do it through rigorous constitutional oversight starting this weekend. Yeah. This is great. We all used to live in the same freaking house. Yeah, I don't have any prepared remarks. I wish I could go around the room and, you know, tell the story about how each and every one of you have magically touched my life to put me in this position. What a roller coaster ride it has been. I do know this. We are in the room together because you guys have a love of country that is truly inspirational, and it bleeds out everywhere we go. And if you look around.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't bleed out everywhere you go. It's sick. It's sick. It has nothing to do with the United States of America outside of slavery. When women couldn't vote, when women couldn't own property, where African Americans weren't considered human beings. And this is the type of Lord. I mean, this is the Lord means shit. Sorry, in Danish. But this is the type of shit people are putting up with. People aren't putting up with it. Cash Patel, 4 years. 4 years. Less. I don't even give him 2 years. I don't give Cash Patel 2 years. I don't give him 2 years. But 4 years. Yo, Americans deserve way better than this. Deserve way better than this. But apparently it's going to have to be this way. And I'm going to tell you, just like for me personally, I don't see him as American. I don't see him as sitting on any type of legal post. I don't see it. I see this person as being part of an illegitimate coup over the United States of America. Very simple. A coup where people conspired with foreign nations to undermine the freedom of the civilians of the United States of America. That's what I see it. And I see people like this needing to be purged. That's what I see. Let's hear some more garbage from this sicko.
Around this room, you see civil servants, you see warriors, you see attorneys, you see great husbands and fathers.
But that's not what he sees, because Trump sat up there and all he did was talk bad about the military, bad about civil servants. And now he's talking about, I see warriors. Man, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? You are the worst. Your administration is the worst. The worst administration that the U.S. has ever had. You hate yourselves. You hate the United States. You hate it. Why? I have no clue why this clown hates so many goddamn Americans. But this should be a lesson. This should be a lesson to Americans. You know, everyone is not going to uphold freedom for everybody. There's going to be a few people like him that's going to not hold up freedom for everybody. You see, while he sits up here and talks about it's the greatest country in the world. Well, yeah, we know it because we're one of the countries in the world where we allow scumbags like you and give people a chance. And you betray those people. So Kash Patel is going to have to find out what it's like to run into some Americans whose ancestors have been in the country since the colonial days. That's what I think Kash Chappelle, meet some of those lefties like that, Kash Chappelle. That's what I think you need to meet, you know, but you ain't shit. And you definitely do not have my respect at all, period. At all. Nobody that plays games with any Nazis, any fascists, fuck you. You can die. Like straight up. That's my position on it. I don't play games with it. You see, I don't teach my kids that hateful bullshit, and I don't play games with it at all. That is sick. That is sick. I don't even want to hear the rest of this dude's garbage. Screw him. Bev, what you got to say?
It's crazy. I ain't never heard of this man until just now, to be honest with you. I ain't paying no attention to him. The whole thing is crazy. Elon Musk, I can't wrap my head around that. How is he allowed to come in here and do what he does? I don't get it. I still haven't figured it out. What I'm trying to think, with him doing all this thing, can't the military just go in there and take him out?
You know, I'm not really right now. I'm not really sure. I mean, the military is theoretically, you know, until certain things happen, controlled by the president, right? But let's be honest. In a civil war, fuck all these rules. So the moment these people announce anything against the Constitution, people should understand it's because they've already plotted a civil war. They've called for it already. When they start saying things like purge, where is the word purge in the Constitution? Where's the word purge in the laws that we're supposed to uphold? It doesn't exist. That's what enemies say to people. And these people use that language against their own citizens. You see? So you already know where it's going.
Yeah.
That would be like me. That's like a guy trying to find a girlfriend, and the first thing he starts doing is calling her the B word. And if that girlfriend accepts it, oh, she's in for a ride. People have to reject this flat out. This is not a government by the people for the people. It's not. It's just not. But let me play some of this. This is what came on Kash Patel's day with all the Trump appointees, this is reality for folks' pockets. And it's going to get worse. And see, right now it's just reflected in the stocks. Guess what's going to happen next? It's going to be reflected in how much you pay for shit. Let's watch it.
Carol, a pretty interesting sell-off here, down about 1.7% on the S&P 500, but I think complexion of this sell-off that's causing a lot of agita.
I love how you say that. There's some weak
Hey, I might go buy me some stocks if it keeps crashing like this.
economic news, right? We continue to watch news out of DC. There's concerns about, reports of a possible new coronavirus. And so you kind of add it all up. There's really definitely a risk-off trade in today's session.
Yeah, you really saw.
There's no federal government looking. Look, anybody could be spreading anything in the United States right now because the Nazis have the power.
Wow.
So what do you think? Trump didn't do shit the last time about Corona. Would you think he's going to be in a hurry to save somebody's life this time around? And now he's got a lunatic. Would you trust anything that lunatic says about your health?
Nope.
In a pandemic? See, folks, y'all, I don't know why some people have to go through this kind of stuff before they learn, but people are going to learn. People are going to learn.
Well,
and the entire world.
How will
is
be the
gonna
one to
watch.
learn? I didn't vote for this mess.
The entire world is going to watch the United States play craps. Roll the dice on everything. Just roll the dice. Get a lunatic in charge over here. Get a lunatic in charge over there. Let's see if it works out fine. Throw one in front of the health department to a lunatic, a heroin addict, 14-year heroin addict. He should be the leader of the Department of Health. Oh, oops, Corona is coming, a new type. Oh, what's he going to do about it? This man, what is the guy, the Kennedy? This dude actually says that the AIDS in Africa is a different AIDS than white people get. I'm paraphrasing. And you know what he means when he says that? It's slick talk. What he means is that you should make two different forms of treatment, two different ones, right? One for the people you want to die, and one for the people you want to live. That's basically what he's saying.
Well, he's crazy anyway.
Yeah, he's crazy, and I'm definitely not taking no goddamn thing made out of the United States of America regarding any damn coronavirus. And thank God Trump broke off from Europe because, hey, we won't have to fuck with that shit that they're making in the United States. Because I don't want to panic people, but hey, how do you, I don't want to get ahead of the doctors, but listen, these people don't play fair.
Timestamps, 9:45, 10 o'clock when we got some of that economic data, consumer sentiment, housing services coming in weaker than expected, unsettling investors. And then a little afternoon, Scarlett, when people started really paying attention to this report from the South China Morning Post that actually came out yesterday about a possible new strain of coronavirus.
Let's not forget also there's $2.7 trillion of options tied to stocks and ETFs expiring today, which may be exacerbating some of the price action as well as we bump along the bottom here heading into the close.
Heading into the close, and of course, and heading into another important week next week, particularly when it comes to earnings. We have NVIDIA on tap, which is obviously the granddaddy in terms of leading this market rally. And I guess the question is, given it's down this week by 3 or 4%, can that sort of save this rally?
Yeah, it is a big question, right? Whether or not, they see any kind of weakness, that is certainly going to disturb investors, no doubt about it. Right?
A lot to talk about here today as we get the closing bells in New York with the Dow and S&P, NASDAQ. Well, let's just call it all the major indices in the red on the day, and it appears on the week. The Dow down more than 700 points, or about 1.7%. The S&P 500 lower by about 100 points, or 1.7%, and it does look like it is going to close below that 50-day moving average. Similar story for the NASDAQ 100. The NASDAQ composite down more than 400 points, or 2.2%. Let's take a minute, though, to take a look at the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000 lower on the day by almost 3% here on the day, and it is now officially closed below its 200-day moving average, the first time that has happened since late 2023.
All right, that's pretty significant, no doubt about it. I want to just draw your attention to one group, and that's the trucking names. They're down almost 5%. You did have JP Morgan analysts highlighting potential risks coming from Amazon's freight plans to build up its own internal LTL, less than truckload capacity. So there's one sector, Scarlett, that we definitely saw under pressure today.
Absolutely. But you look at the IMAP and it's clear that the pressure is pretty evenly distributed. There is one green spot, that is consumer staples. Those are your classic defensive names. Utilities, also little change on the day, but all in all, lots of red. In fact, with 7 out of the 11 groups in the S&P 500 down at least 1%.
All right, guys, I'm going to get to some of the gainers.
Big gainer, James.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I have
Times
to
get
say,
tough, eat more chocolate, right?
I was so nervous that all my gainers were not going to hold, but
up.
they did. Aren't we happy?
And you did 4.
I did 4.
That's so risky.
I know it was. I had to, because I feel like there's like a lot of fundamental stories at play. Alibaba up about 6% here. This one up something like 14% this week, up almost 50% this month. Up.
Alibaba is China. You know, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I don't have anything particularly against any Chinese people. They're people like a lot of other people, but I mean, just regarding Trump's tariffs and his ideas, look, China's thanking him. Thanks. Alibama's saying thanks, Trump. I wonder what that was. You know what that is? That's because since Trump don't want to do business and trade with the rest of the world's like, fuck it. We need to trade with somebody. Hey, we may as well trade with China. That's what they're doing. The EU, they're already making new trade agreements with China, just like that, because of Trump. Canada is also. Mexico is also. Everybody in South America is also. Central America is also. The whole damn world, because of Trump. American citizens, you got a perfect storm. You got a guy who wants to take your goddamn freedom personally, literally take your literal civil rights away from you. At the same time, he wants to break you economically. Folks should not sit around waiting. Don't sit around. I'm telling you, do not sit around expecting things to get better in the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months. No, expect it to get worse, because problems don't get solved that fast.
It's crazy.
I don't want to give you a heart attack, Bev. Sorry. I don't want to worry you. What the hell?
It's just that I don't know. I just think they moving too slow. That's just my opinion.
Oh, they damn sure moving too. Yo, it's not they moving too slow. Y'all moving too slow, because let me tell you, you better be concerned about saving your ass. Like, it's beyond politics anymore. It's beyond the Democratic Party. Yo, the Democratic Party cannot do much. And the one thing that's going to allow them to do anything is the people putting pressure on those goddamn racist pigs called the Republicans. Those numbskulls. Like, seriously, these people are trying to hurt you. Folks need to go and rip their necks out, like straight up. These people, if American people don't let them damn Republican Congress people know that they mean goddamn business,
I don't know what to say.
Like, no, that's the only thing that has to happen. Like, straight up. That is what's helping. That is what's slowing things down. That's the only thing that's going to slow things down. That's the only thing that's going to turn things around. Look, for the Republicans, now the next story, it's a garbage story, and I don't even know what they're talking about. Everyone can see the stock market is down. China's shit is going up. It's that simple. But here's the next story. So let me know what you think about this. Just look at this. This is crazy. Now, people are talking about Trump wants to have a what is this? CPAC America?
What is it?
gathering of conservatives just outside Washington. Trump is addressing the Conservative Political Action Conference known as CPAC. This year's meeting comes as ties between the US and Europe are strained by disagreements over ending the war in.
Now, people are out here already talking about, yeah, y'all, this is what he does to distract these dumbass MAGA people. He's out there talking about, hey, man, I could run for a third term. Look, y'all, Trump's going to be dead. Okay? He's not going to make it. You know, forget the third term. Just don't be drawn down that rabbit hole. Okay? Forget it. You know, this dude will do anything to keep folks unfocused from what they should be doing. You know, he's concocting things, making things up, theoretical arguments about what you could do. No, it's over, buddy. It's over. Fuck the next election. What are you talking about? It's going to be over before that. Things is going to hit ahead way before any election. Two things going to happen before Trump ever gets into serve anything. Think about a next term. He's going to die. That's just how it works. He's old as fuck and in very poor health, which is why he doesn't show his health. Right? The other thing is that all hell is going to break loose long before that next election. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying vote in the next election. But I'm saying all hell is going to break loose before that next election anyway. This dude is either going to be taken out by Congress and the Senate for real. He's going to die, or all hell's going to break loose. So all the talk about another election, man, this is just garbage talk. But let's let Trump do his thing for a second.
Ukraine. And our correspondent, Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber, is at the convention center where CPAC is happening. Good to see you, Benjamin. What's President Trump been saying?
So the speech is still ongoing in the room. You might see some of the doors behind me of the president that said that this is the 14th time that he's addressing this CPAC, this summit, but this is the first time that he's doing it as the 47th president. He started by thanking the crowd and, of course, praising what he and his administration have been doing in this first month in office. But I think more interesting, not only is interesting is what he's saying, is also how he started his speech by praising many of the foreign delegations that are here, showing why this CPAC that also happens in other places, for example, in Budapest, also in South Korea, they were here with delegations, is so important to have this connection with all political powers. He praised the son of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, also attending here, sitting in one of the first rows, is his Argentinian counterpart, Javier Milei, who spoke earlier today and also appeared on stage a couple of days ago, handing Elon Musk a chainsaw that he called the chainsaw of bureaucracy. The president of Poland is here as well. We had Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister of Italy, also addressing the crowd during a video message. So it shows how connected all of the political parties are, not only here at CPAC.
And Benjamin, the president's been in office for about a month now. It's been a controversial few weeks in many aspects. What do people there at CPAC think about his time in office so far?
So we asked a couple of them. Also, there's like an exhibition area where many of them are showing what they're doing. So, for example, there's a group here that wants to actually change the constitution to allow President Trump a third term in office. Many of the delegations praising what he's been doing. And I think the topic that most people are talking about here is what DOGE, this Department of Government Efficiency, where we still don't know actually who's leading that department, because according to the White House, it is not Elon Musk. So that's still a very big question mark, but many of them have been praising what DOGE has been doing with several of the departments, several of the organizations of the state. So there's a topic that comes on not only with the speeches of the speaker here at the conference, but also people are talking about that in the hallways.
And Benjamin, there's also been some controversy over political activist Steve Bannon making what some people thought was a Nazi salute. Tell us more about that.
That's right. That happened yesterday. That's how he finished and ended his speech, even though he denied that it was a Nazi salute. I'd say that the pictures and the videos are pretty clear. The outcry on social media was also pretty strong, although it's not a very big topic.
I mean, they're doing it on purpose. You know, that's the thing about it. They're in their mind, you know, this is what I suspect, because that was such an unnatural Nazi salute. You know, they're doing it to instill fear in people. Let me tell you, Nazis can die, like flat out. That's not a game. People don't need to wait around for a Nazi to show up at your door and say, please come with me nicely. Okay, Nazis want to kill you. It's that simple. So they're sending messages out there, and they probably want to instill fear, but people react when they're afraid. People defend themselves when they're afraid for their lives. Folks are not going to sit back and wait. And I wouldn't advise anybody to sit back and wait for what these people have coming, because they're so deranged in the head. They're going to come to try to prove something. They're going to try to do something that hurts people, that oppresses people. They're going to try it because they're lunatics. Just like the Nazis did. They went around and ran amok and got pummeled, destroyed by a network of nations. That's what happened last time. The borders are very big. That Canadian border is very long. That Mexican border is very long. That coastline is very long. You see? So, you know, anyway, is there something I need to be checking out, Bev, that I missed? What do you think about this, Bev? Just tell me your perspective. When he says this kind of stuff, oh, it's some people that want Trump to run for third. What's wrong with people's brains? They don't have anything better to do? Did they concoct something about a dude? Listen, y'all. Listen. I'm sorry. If Trump ran for a third term, how old would he be? I mean, this is what I'm saying. Why is that even in the media? Why is it even something that they even do? He would be 82 goddamn years old. And at the end of his third term, he would be 86 years. Yo. And people are out here wasting people's time with this talk. Yo, I'm telling y'all, that's very, I don't know, that is French television, I believe. Or DW. Is it German or French? Let me check it out. What is that? I forget. What is it? I think it's French TV, isn't it? No. It's German TV.
For what?
This DW News.
Oh, I never heard of that.
I forgot. It's Dutchland. Yeah, that's what it is. It's German news. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure because the French channel uses the same colors. But yeah, I mean, let me see. Demonstrations today, anti-Trump. Let's see here. Let's see what folks are doing. Thanks again to all the people out there in the street. You're my kind of people. You're obviously intelligent people. You're people that actually care about your country, care about people's lives, care about fairness, care about care about democracy, but this type of shit is really 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 sad. But I have full faith that Americans are going to fight. I have full faith, like seriously. I have faith in, I have the type of faith that I'm serious. If these people want a civil war, bring it on. Like seriously, Americans should not be afraid of these bullies. They believe too much in themselves. you know, in their abilities. They haven't had someone want to strike them back yet. But apparently they need it before they're going to learn, like straight up.
Holiday in the US, and people across the country are using it to rally against the president currently occupying the White House, Donald Trump. Thousands have turned out in Washington, D.C. against what they see as the president's moves to gut government agencies and make them more compliant. Mr. Trump has said his orders are not breaking law since he is saving his country, a point of view that has many worried that the US is heading for a constitutional crisis, or is already in one.
On the campaign trail and in court appearances, Donald Trump was the victim.
They've weaponized your government. They're a disgrace to our country. And I'd just like to explain that I was treated very, very unfairly. Because I did nothing wrong. It's a witch hunt. It's an attack by my political opponents.
Now in office, he's turned the tables, using the justice system, part of the executive branch of government he heads, to reward supporters and punish enemies. One of his first acts in his new term was to pardon the rioters who stormed the Capitol building 4 years ago, including those who had assaulted police officers. His Justice Department dropped charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. The federal prosecutor in that case resigned, saying the move was an apparent quid pro quo for Adams' cooperation on Trump administration priorities. And the Justice Department has asked for...
And this is the crazy part about it. You know, these MAGA people, Republicans, they sat up there the whole time talking about corruption, Democrats corruption, Democrats corruption. They're corrupting. And right out openly, they show you they're okay with corruption. Isn't that crazy? Just like right in people's faces, say one thing about Democrats and then do the exact same thing that they're saying others are doing. They do. You know, of course, that's gaslighting when they talk about Democrats and corruption because their party is way more corrupt. But
a list of FBI employees who investigated Trump and fired prosecutors who took part in those investigations. Meanwhile, the court system, a separate branch of government, has emerged as his greatest obstacle. Trump's executive orders on freezing federal spending, covering a range of programs, including food assistance for the elderly, have been blocked by courts. The Trump administration has lashed out in response. Vice President J.D. Vance wrote on X, "Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power." And the White House press secretary...
Look at that. Look, this is just like a play on words. Judges are not allowed to control executives' legitimate power. Why did he throw the word legitimate in there? Because why do you have... if it's executive power, what does he mean? What does the word legitimate add to it? Is there illegitimate executive power? I mean, you see how you see this manipulation? JD Vance is prone to do this type of wording every time he says something. It's a lot of projection. Why do you need to say that it's legitimate? Look, judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. So are they allowed to control the executive's illegitimate power? You know, this is like straight up gaslighting, and this is the only plan they got until the violence is going to start. I'm telling you. And it's just like that with prostitutes. The pimp gaslights them mentally over and over and over until the beating starts. You see, it's like a buildup. You know, keep gaslighting, because the gaslighting is stalling people, freezing people, confusing people, because people have to think, like, does this make sense? Like, isn't it obvious, you know, that this is so wrong? You know, people get in shock when they hear this kind of stuff for the first time, but it's designed to make people do nothing. You know, it's actually designed to, Bev, I can hear you. It's designed to make Americans fearful, you know, and to just not be able to react. But listen, everyone's not in shock. I'm not in shock. I see, and I know what type of language, how people have to respond when they see this kind of language. Like, if you ever encounter this kind of talking down, gaslighting, you have to reject it right off the bat. Because the more you accept, the more sunken you're going to become. And the more sunken you're going to become, the less likely you will react.
The executive's legitimate power. And the White House press secretary said judges were abusing their authority.
Quick news flash to these liberal judges who are supporting their obstructionist efforts. 77 million Americans voted to elect this president. And each injunction is an abuse of the rule of law and an attempt to thwart the will of the people.
One of the cases about Trump's power to fire officials has already reached the Supreme Court, which has a conservative supermajority, including 3 justices Trump nominated. But they still might rule against him. If they do, the court has no police force or army to enforce its judgment, leaving many in the U.S. wondering, if Trump loses in court on a major issue, will he do what the court says?
Nancy Erica Smith is an employment and civil rights lawyer. She joins us from the town of Montclair in the U.S. state of New Jersey. Welcome to DW. So we have this storm of executive orders from the White House, some of which are struck down by the courts, leading the White House to protest loudly and angrily. Is this really a constitutional crisis? Because the checks and balances seem to be working at the moment.
Oh, it's definitely a constitutional crisis. Anytime you have one arm of the government, the executive branch and president, completely ignoring the Constitution, it's pretty scary. When the Constitution, for instance, says that all persons born in the United States are citizens, an executive order from the President of the United States saying that's not so is very scary. And a lot of the actions...
The president, forgive me, but the Constitution says one thing, the president says, no, it doesn't. The courts say, yes, it does. Isn't that the way the system works?
Hopefully, so far. Unfortunately, we have a Supreme Court that a lot of lawyers like me have very little confidence in. They're the ones who made up the idea that Trump has immunity from violating the law, which is why we had a revolution in our country. We don't have kings in the United States. So why we have immunity from violating the law, which is why we had a revolution in our country. We don't have kings in the United States. From violating the law, which is why we had a revolution in our country. We don't have kings in the United States. Because why we had a revolution in our country. We don't have kings in the United States. So there's very little confidence among lawyers in this Supreme Court. This Supreme Court is the most partisan we probably ever had in history. The Republicans stopped Obama, although he had a constitutional right to add a justice to the court during his last entire year of presidency. They stopped him. And meanwhile, during the Trump administration, they put a Supreme Court justice on the court while there was an election going on. Early voting had already started and Trump lost. And those justices testified under oath that they would not overturn Roe v. Wade. And then they did. And Thomas, more than any other justice, has taken a lot of favors from very connected right-wing billionaires. His wife has actively worked in favor of Trump.
We get the point that you believe that the system is stacked against you. So the United States, you believe to be in a constitutional crisis.
The courts are corrupt. They're paid off and bought. That's basically what she's saying, and yeah, that's true. It's called corruption, it's called corruption.
So and
this is why corruption is dangerous, because once you have court justices that are corrupt, anyone can seep in the system now and take control.
Does happen if even the Supreme Court says no, but the president says, I'm going to do it anyway. What happens then?
What happens then is pretty scary, because Trump has also violated many other laws and protections, like the Department of Justice is being decimated. So the people who would keep going into lower courts to protect us, they're being fired or they're resigning because they won't violate the law. So when you fire all the inspector generals, who are created by Congress, the EEOC is an agency created by Congress to stop discrimination in the United States. The NLRB is an agency created by Congress to protect workers' rights. Inspector generals are created by Congress to protect us from fraud and corruption. And the people appointed to those they're confirmed by the Senate. So the separation of powers in the United States Constitution is really important to be honored, and it's not being honored. And if the Supreme Court doesn't stop that, I don't know what happens in the United States. I don't see a great deal of leadership right now.
There's no process, because I was led to believe that you go through the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says one thing, the president says another. The next step, I understood, was an attempt at impeachment.
Yeah, and the Republican Party is in they're completely cowed by Trump. The Republican Party has violated what they said they would do in terms of the incredible appointments to the cabinet. The alcoholics, rapists, anti-vaxxers are in the cabinet now. So the Republicans cannot be relied on. We would have to wait migrants, which we see happening in this country. You use tons of misinformation, like love Viktor Orban, and they're really parroting what he did to Hungary. The judge ruled that there's a judge not being honored, and if the Supreme Court doesn't stop that, I don't know what happens in the United States. I don't see a great deal of leadership right now.
There's no process, because I was led to believe that you go through the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says one thing, the president says another. The next step, I understood, was an attempt at impeachment.
Yeah, and the Republican Party is in they're completely cowed by Trump. The Republican Party has violated what they said they would do in terms of the incredible appointments to the cabinet, the alcoholics, rapists, anti-vaxxers are in the cabinet now. So the Republicans cannot be relied on. We would have to wait 2 years and have an overwhelming election of
Just
Democrats.
to be clear, there are convicted rapists in the cabinet, you're saying?
Well, Trump is a convicted rapist.
Was he convicted of rape?
Yes, he was. The judge ruled that there's a judge ruling that what Donald Trump did to E. Jean Carroll constitutes rape. There's a judge ruling that.
Okay.
Yes.
So gaze into your crystal ball for us, please, and speculate about the change.
So Donald Trump is a rapist. And yeah, folks, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Look, if you're in a democratic state, and if you're living in a democratic state, start talking, organizing people. Get ready, because these folks are going to come and try to come to your state and commit acts of violence. Like, I'm just saying it straight up. And you don't know what kind. It could be explosions. It very well likely will be. It could be they're more likely to do explosions. I'm telling you, because cowards do that. A coward might show up at a movie theater and shoot up a bunch of people, but when people are prepared, knowing that they have a clear enemy that wants them dead and doesn't respect their constitutional rights, people are going to be prepared. And so that lone man showing up with that gun and just shooting up, it's going to be a little more difficult when you know you're in a conflict, in a war. Like straight up. I'm just saying it. I'm just putting it out there. These people are more likely to come with some type of poison or bombs. Like, I'm serious. And you can go into not long ago and you could see these so-called supremacists using bombs. Yeah. Because see, a bomb, you just have to place it. You don't have to risk your life, really. Not the same way as showing up with a gun and shooting a bunch of people. So I think these people harbor a lot of hatred towards liberals, what they call liberal, even though the word liberal means freedom itself, to liberate, free, liberal, freedom, liberate. You see, so yeah, I'm really at a loss here. But I'm just telling you, I don't think this is one of these moments where people need to sit back and hope that things are going to turn out all right. Because I'm just telling you, just like the woman said here, no. And she's saying it mildly. She's saying it mildly. And I guarantee you, people that live in communities like this, I'm pretty sure everybody's thinking about what they're going to do about safety, because you cannot rely on the federal government anymore. And the worst part about it is they're going to tax you while they're going to screw you, while they're turning a blind eye, while they know that there's people conspiring to hurt you. Their plan is to keep on taxing you. Yo, listen, state governors, I know it's not easy, but people better start thinking about their obligation to people this time around. Like what the real obligation is, these civil servants. And yeah, because why would people go through this much to not go all the way? You see, and all Americans know that these people have been talking about a civil war for decades now, a couple of decades, clearly, and it's only gotten louder. And now look what it's morphed into. So I doubt very seriously that they wouldn't try what they usually try, the usual tactics of harassment. So just be prepared, folks. In fact, I got to log out. I don't even like talking like this, but let me let this play out a little bit.
Which is likely to have been forced upon the US justice system as a result of 4 years of a president emboldened by the people and by the Supreme Court, who has politicized the administration of the Justice Department. What do you see left in 4 years?
I see Hungary. I see he loves Orban. Trump and his acolytes love Viktor Orban, and they're really parroting what he did to Hungary. You attack voting rights. You fire civil servants who implement the laws and serve the people, not a person. You intimidate the press. Musk said 60 Minutes executives, producers, and journalists should be in prison yesterday because he didn't like what 60 Minutes said. Vance said the president doesn't have to follow court orders. So I see you create division. Orban attacked migrants, which we see happening in this country. You use tons of misinformation, and between Twitter, now Musk's X, and Fox News and Newsmax, there's so much information being pumped into Americans that's what Orban did. And you lie constantly so that nobody can believe anything anymore. You don't trust anybody. It's not just that they want us to believe the lies, it's that they don't want us to trust anything. Saying that migrants are taking benefits. Immigrants don't take benefits. They don't get benefits. Saying that migrants are committing so many crimes. Migrants commit far fewer crimes.
That's quite a dystopian view of the future. Let's cross our fingers and hope that you're wrong. Good talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I hope so.
Employment.
Through that the Trump administration is even in direct talks with the Russians, the EU, which remember is not a military organization, but has begun providing military aid. The story is they're working on a proposal for 20 billion euros in military aid. It doesn't cover all of what America provides, but 20 billion euros is pretty good, right? If they can get it into the right places to make the drones, to get the artillery shells moving, to provide possibly even air power. So, you know, they're going to continue to work on it. Do the Trump people then say, oh, we're going to sanction you for helping Ukraine? You know?
Hello and welcome to Frontline for Times Radio. I'm Louis Sykes. Today we're talking about the war in Ukraine with Professor Scott Lucas from the Clinton Institute at University College Dublin. Scott, welcome.
Yes, sorry about that. What I was saying is that the EU is moving forward. Americans need to know that regardless of what Donald Trump goddamn does, the EU is moving forward militarily on its own without the US. They're not waiting for the US to fix its problem with itself. So any of you MAGA people that thought that little charade of sending dumbass JD Vance, the most pathetic piece of shit, to Europe and have him chastise Europeans when Americans don't even fucking vote. 90 million people in the USA don't even fucking vote. That's more people than Germany has. That's a whole goddamn country. And yet you're coming to Europe chastising them when more goddamn people vote here. Americans do not have cultural values when it comes to democracy, apparently. You can't come to Europe and lecture Europeans on democracy. You first have to fucking vote at higher numbers. Secondly, the Europeans haven't been taking or having a free ride based on the US. The US decided itself to play the role it played in global affairs and received every single benefit for it, way past any point of complaint. The reason why the US was out there working in NATO was because it's a better, stronger plan that gets the US even more than it would by itself. It's very simple. But no, that wasn't good enough. So now Americans are in their own little trap here. The MAGA folk are in their trap, and everybody else is in the trap because of the MAGA folk. How long are Americans going to let their pocketbooks bleed? How long are Americans going to let these people in power spread hate, teach their children hate? How long is that going to happen? What is it going to take to get you, the MAGA folk and the Republicans, to start caring about the democracy, to start giving a damn about the democracy, to stop lying about the democracy? What's it going to take? Do you need your head blown off? Like, what is it going to take? Do you need to live on the street? Do you need to lose your home? Do you need to get sick with some sort of pandemic? What is it you need this time around? Because you're going to get it. Yo, anyway, I'm over here. My name is Bennett. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm an American citizen, but I live in Denmark. And yo, I'm going to fight with the Danes on this one. What the hell? This is an illegitimate government in the United States of America. That's really what it is. You all are goddamn criminals. You're not fucking following the rules. And the only person that would follow the rules when the people at the top aren't following the rules are some goddamn fools. And that I am not. You are not Donald J. Trump. You are not my goddamn president. Kash Patel, I don't know who the fuck you are, but you are illegitimate head of the FBI. You're illegitimate. All of Trump's appointees are illegitimate. The Senate that voted for them are illegitimate. They must now prove themselves to be Americans. They must now prove themselves to be fighters for democracy. Yeah, folks are in trouble, y'all. But in any case, everybody else is going to move along. The strong is going to be the strong. If you lay down for these people, then that was your destiny. It's not my destiny.